Greetings, my name is Carlos Lampkin. I'm a student enrolled in Liberty University. I'm presenting my research paper on organizational communication and conflict strategies. Organizational communication and conflict strategies are parallel. They work hand in hand within organizations by building a foundation for success. Conflict strategies opens up the lines for effective communications. When we speak of communications, there are various forms of communication. There's the lateral, the upward to downward communication, then there's verbal, nonverbal, then there's written and electronic. But conflict can hinder any form of communication. Understanding that Robinson Judge mentioned that there is no individual nor any group that can exist without communication. So communication is very important. So when we're dealing with communication, we have to deal with conflict strategies. Conflict strategies is something that we can never avoid. It's something that we have to prepare for in business, in personal, and within organizations. But the ability to have training for conflict strategies, there are many benefits such as strengthening relationships, building camaraderie, enhancing organizational culture, and reducing dysfunctional conflict. And along with reducing dysfunctional conflict, we understand that too little or too much conflict is dysfunctional. Conflict itself is not dysfunctional. There's a moderate level of conflict, or a moderate level of focused conflict that can be beneficial, that can stimulate personnel and executives. At times within organizations, you may have people that may become adapt with the culture, and therefore leads to a stigma of being bored or being lazy. But if you can present conflict in a moderate, focused way, that can stimulate new ideas. The social scientists came up with several forms of behavioral styles that many of us are familiar with. There's the aggressive, passive aggressive, non-assertive, and assertive. And conflict strategies, which is avoiding, smoothing, obliging, integrating, compromising, dominating, and threatening. And along with the behavioral styles and conflict strategies, we have to also factor in temperaments. And the more that we understand a certain issue or a certain subject matter, the easier it is for us to understand it, in building a form of emotional intelligence. And what I mean by emotional intelligence, I mean the ability to understand or manage my emotions as well as detecting someone else's emotion. And we can factor in and manage it all. Organizations are composed of humans. And by anything being composed of humans or humanity, we deal with the temptations, the lust, the personality of humanity. And understanding that there are differences in styles and personalities that can lead to animosity and misunderstandings. So therefore, if we develop ourselves in training with conflict strategies, we can reduce the level of conflict. There's no way to eliminate conflict. You can only reduce it. And by meaning reducing conflict, I mean the negative connotation that produces the strong negative emotions that produce the violence. Conflict is natural, as I forestated. Social scientists through the years have developed many ideas and many definitions of conflict. But there's key factors such as differences of opinions, differences in goals, differences in styles that make up conflict, because there are two histories or two personalities colliding together. We understand one rule of physics: two solid objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. That's somehow when it deals with conflict, because two opinions can't occupy the same space at the same time. Therefore, you have the negative involvement with conflict. What I mean by involvement is the result of the conflict. Conflict is not negative; it's the result of how we manage conflict. And as a result of the study, within training, within organizations, there are a few tools that I've used in times past, such as the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Raheem Organizational Conflict Inventory. And there are several things things or tools that you can use within organizations to help people become aware of their communication styles and how they view people, because humanity is composed of different cultures, different groups, the whole concept of diversity within an organization. So if we can train within conflict strategies, we can open up a clear line of communication and cause individuals to communicate, interact, and deal with each other on a professional level. And when we deal with organizations, we deal with humans, we deal with humanity, we deal with differences of opinions, but nonetheless, every individual represents that organization or their workplace above their differences and their diversity. So therefore, the company name or the organization is stamped on your back, and you have to represent the organization within a professional manner. And we all have to learn how to deal with differences and differences of opinions. One of the things within an organization, there are some spiritual assets such as forgiving and forbearance. So we have to learn how to forbear one another and love. We have to learn how to forgive, because naturally men are sinners. So therefore we deal with the temperament, the weakness, and the temptation of men. So therefore we have to learn how to deal with those things in a professional manner. My name is Carlos Lampkin with Liberty University. I thank you for your time. I thank you for listening to my presentation on organizational communication and conflict strategies. Thank you. You have a good evening.